Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmad Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmad Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So continuing on with our weekly discussion of Mumuksupadi by Pila Lokacharya with a commentary by Manavala Mahamunigal. And last time we were in the first part of the first third of the book, which is called Tirumantra Prakaranam. Tirumantra is the Om Namo Narayana mantra. It's also called the Astakshara mantra because it has 8 syllables. So we're discussing that mantra and we're discussing the meaning of that mantra. And after understanding that it's made up of 8 syllables and 3 words, the first word in it is the Omkara or Pranava, which is a word that is considered to be, or syllable, a sacred sound in Sanskrit, which is considered to be the essence of the Vedas. So now understanding that the mantra itself is an expansion of the Omkara, the mantra gives us the meaning of the Omkara. So then the meaning of the mantra should also be found in the Omkara. So then we've started to talk about the Omkara, and up until now, all we've talked about is the letter A, because Omkara is made up of 3 letters according to the scriptures. In the Narayana Upanishad, it says Akara, Ukara, Makara, Iti. Iti means thus. Omkara is A, U, and Ma, the A-U-M. So we've up until now talked about the letter A in Omkara, and we've actually found that in the letter A, there's a lot of meaning in the letter A. And just to summarize that very quickly before we move on, because today we're going to start talking about the letter U. And this may be too much information for some people, and we may be going too slowly for some people. But there really is a lot of meaning in these letters, and acharyas have thought about them. And so let's just have a look at the text again. Okay, so here we have. This is the last thing that was said. We were on text number 57, Sutra or Churnika, the Mumuksupadi, if everybody remembers, is written in a mixture of Sanskrit and Tamil called Manipravala, which is a liturgical language which is used by the Sri Vaishnava medieval acharyas. So it's more or less Sanskritized Tamil, so that Tamil-speaking people could read it, but they had to know the jargon, the Sanskrit words. So we were talking about the theft of the soul, thinking that one is having ahankara or a false ego, and thinking that one is the doer, or at least that one owns one's own soul. That is considered to be the theft of the soul, because the soul is actually the property of God. And in the commentary here by Manavala Mahamuni, after we discussed that, it sums up the positions that he has on the internal meaning or the esoteric meaning of the letter A in Omkara. So once again, the 4 things, and we discussed this in the previous class, that if you think of the letter A as being a noun stem, right? Nouns in Sanskrit there are stems which have endings added to them. Sanskrit's a very inflected language. It has a lot of endings on both nouns and verbs that give the noun and verb that change the meaning of the noun and verb in certain ways. So, for instance, we have a little bit of that in other languages. In English, for instance, if we say a boat, it's singular. If we say boats, if we add an S to it, it's plural. So something like that. So there are different endings that are added to nouns and verbs in a highly inflected language like Sanskrit, which change the meaning of the word. So if we think of the letter A as a noun, then the meaning of the letter A is that the Lord's position is that he is the cause of the universe. That is the meaning that we get from the letter A, if we think of it as a noun. If we think of the letter A as a verbal root, right? Then we have to look in. There's a whole list of verbal roots in Sanskrit called Dhatupat. Dhatu is the Sanskrit word for verbal root, and pat means to recite. So there are about 2,200 verbal roots in Sanskrit, which we make other words, and even we make nouns and other words out of verbal roots. So verbal roots are the essence of the language, the essence of Sanskrit at least. So So these 2,200 verbal roots are changed in certain ways, and they become other words. So if we, if we consider the letter A to be a noun, it means the Lord is the cause of the universe. If we consider letter A to be a verb, a verbal root, then it's the verbal root of. In the list of verbal roots, it's of. It's actually of, and of means to protect. To protect. So he's the cause of the universe. He protects everything. He protects his property, which is the souls and the universe are his property. Everything is his property. He owns and controls everything. So he creates everything. He owns and controls everything. The third meaning of the letter A is that he has a position, he has the unique position of being the husband of the goddess Mahalakshmi or Sri Devi, right? That's an implied meaning. So Sri Devi is also included in the letter A, right? Although normally we think of the letter A as representing the Supreme Lord Narayana. But along with Lord Narayana, when Lord Narayana appears, Sri Devi, his consort is there. Also, his entourage is also there. But specifically, Sri Devi, he's the consort. He's the husband of Sri Devi. And the fourth meaning that was coming out of the letter A, that was being brought out by the Acharyas here, is the Lord's status as what we call Sheshi, or the master, and therefore the reciprocal status of everything else as being, his servant. The sentient beings, the souls, the Chaitanas, right, as being his servants, like that. And actually, the material nature also serves him. So everything else serves him. He is completely swatantra, completely independent, and everything else is dependent upon him. So the Lord's nature as the master, the controller, the uplifter, the basis of everything, right, is also implied, because there's an implied case ending. There's an implied ending here to the letter A. So when we see A by itself, and this was explained before, that in Sanskrit, when you get a compound, when you have a compound is made up of different words. You put a different, in English, we have compounds too, like, for instance, telephone, television, like that. So vision over a long distance is television, right? So we add two things together, and two words together, and we get a compound word. So in Sanskrit, it's more difficult because you can put more words together. You can put a whole lot of words together, and you can make one compound out of many words. So when you do that grammatically, the words, which I said all have endings on them to indicate the relationship between one word and another word in a sentence, right? Those endings are taken off all the words except for the last word in the compound. If you make one big word, one big word out of a few different words, then you only put the endings on the last word in the compound. That's grammatically how it works in Sanskrit. So the idea is that by grammatically treating AUM, Omkara, if we look as a Sanskrit grammarian, if we look at AUM and we consider it to be a compound rather than just a syllable or just a bunch of letters, or one word, if we consider it to be a compound, then if we take each of the letters and we consider those to be individual words or elements in the compound, then the first word or the first element is the letter A. So if the first word, if that's an element, if that's actually, we consider that to be a word, then if we break those apart, what would be the ending that would go on that? The ending, because the letter A represents the Narayana in Om Namo Narayanaya, right? So the word Narayana is represented by the letter A in Omkara. So because because the word Narayana is the noun which represents the letter A in Omkara. Therefore, because we have Narayanaya, which means unto Narayana or for Narayana, right? It's the dative case singular of Narayana. Narayanaha, Narayana, Narayanaha, Narayanam, Narayana, Narayanam, Narayanena, Narayanabhyam, Narayanahi, Narayanaya. That's how we decline Narayana. So Narayanaya, right, means unto or for Narayana. So therefore, because A, the letter A represents Narayan, therefore that A should also have an Aya on it. It also should have a Ya on it. It should also be in the dative case, right? So here, the fourth thing to be understood is that there is an inherent dative case there. There's an inherent YA, which is the ending that goes on Narayana, right? Narayanaya, Aya. So Aya, Ya goes on the end there. And that makes it dative. That makes it to or for Narayana. So because A means Narayana, therefore it should be A plus Ya, Aya, right? So if we break up the compound, if we consider Om to be a compound, A, the letter A, is actually Aya when we break it up. So that would mean that everything is meant to be to or for the Lord. So that's another meaning in the letter A. The letter A means also that everything is meant for him or to him. It is meant to be for him or to him. Okay, so that was just a summary of the meanings that we got out of the letter A. Now we're going to move on to the letter U, the letter U in the Omkara. Sutra number 58 or Churnika number 58. On the strength of its position, the letter U means exclusivity. Okay, so the letter U comes between A and M in Omkara. Okay, so in such statements as the following, the letter U is found to be used in place of the word eva. Okay, so eva in Sanskrit means alone or indeed. So, and we've got some examples here of eva. Some examples of eva. And the quotation is from Mahanarayana Upanishad, right? Which again is the Upanishad that we are, Mahanarayana Upanishad 1-2. And the quotation is that alone, eva, which was that alone, you, which will be, right? So that's a quotation from Mahanarayana Upanishad, right? So what we're trying to prove here is we're trying to prove with quotations from the scriptures, especially from the Upanishads, right? We're trying to prove that the letter U has a meaning of exclusivity. Exclusivity, because the word U is considered here by the acharyas to mean alone. Alone or indeed. Right? We could also look up ava. Ava, I believe, is an indeclinable in Sanskrit, so it's not going to change. And we just look up the word ava. And ava means so, just so, exactly so, indeed, truly, really. Anyway, it has a lot of meanings, but basically here it's meaning alone or indeed. Okay, so then that is the first quotation. The second quotation is also from Mahanarayana Upanishad 1-7, and it says, that alone, meaning that, the term that here refers to the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Personality, Sriman Narayana, right? The most spiritual personality, right? So that the first one was that alone, eva, which was, that alone, which will be, right? The Supreme always was, He's the creator, so he was there before everybody. We know that also from Narayana Upanishad, not just from Mahanarayana Upanishad, right? Narayana Brahmo Jayate, Narayana Indra Jayate, Narayana Prajapate Prajayante, Atadityo Narayana. It says before Indra, before Brahma, before that was Narayana. From Narayana came all these, everything came from Narayana. So that alone, and that alone will be, right? So in the beginning there was Narayana, and in the end there will be Narayana, right? Like that. So, which is also the definition given in Taittiriya Upanishad. If you remember the definition, what is the definition of Brahman? The definition, general definition of Brahman given in Taittiriya Upanishad is Yatova imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yapayanti abhisham vishanti. That from which everything emanates, that by which everything is maintained, and that into which everything enters. That is Brahman. That is the Supreme. That is spiritual. That is the Lord Narayana. So that alone, which was, and that alone, which will be, that is Narayana. Okay. And the second quotation, also from Mahanarayana Upanishad 1.7, that alone is Agni, that is Vayu, that is Surya, that alone is Chandrama, right? So everything, as we've stated before, we've understood before, everything is coming from the Lord, and therefore, in a sense, everything is the Lord. So we are also the Lord, the world is also the Lord, the universe is also the Lord, Agni, Vayu, Surya, Chandrama, they're also the Lord, because they come from the Lord, and therefore they, just like the sun and the sunshine comes from the sun, right? And is therefore, in one sense, non-different from the sun. Now, of course, we've discussed this before, the souls, the individual chetanas or individual consciousness, right? The individual jivatmans are considered to be coming from the Paramatman, coming from the Supreme. Everything is created by him. And therefore, we have in common some qualities. But we are Anu and he is Vibhu. We are in very small quantity and he is in unlimited quantity. Vibhu means all expansive, all pervasive. So these are the two quotes that are given here to explain, to give a proof from the scriptures, from the Upanishads, which is the highest type of proof, scriptural proof, the Shrutis, the Vedas, that the letter U in Omkara has the meaning of Eva or alone or indeed. Okay, so therefore, on the strength of its position, the letter U, like the word Eva, has the meaning of exclusivity. Now, okay, so it means exclusivity. Okay, so now what does that mean? A particle, meaning a small word like Eva, is considered a particle. It's a particle in the grammatical sense, okay? It's a type of word. Meaning exclusivity can either exclude the substantive from having other qualities, or it can exclude those qualities from existing in other substantives, okay? What does that mean? It means, when we say it means exclusivity, it means exclusivity in what way? If there's a thing which has exclude a thing from other qualities, it excludes a thing from other qualities. So a thing, if we say a thing is exclusive, it means it doesn't have certain other qualities. If we say a thing is exclusive, it can also mean, the second meaning is that it can mean it's exclusive because it contains a quality which other things don't have. So there's two ways of understanding exclusivity. One is that a thing is exclusive if it doesn't have bad qualities. Something's very, very good, for instance. It doesn't have the bad qualities, right? So for instance, you take any item. I'm not getting an idea of an example here, but if we say there's something and we compare it to other things, it doesn't have any of the defects of the other thing, then we can say it's exclusive because it doesn't have the defects of these other things. Similarly, if we have another item that has a specific quality, which other things don't have, we can also say that's the exclusive item, right? In both cases, these are two different ways of understanding exclusivity, right? So, I'm just going to read the footnote here. There are two ways to use the particles of exclusion. If we say the lotus, or she's giving an example here, right? If we say the lotus is only red, we mean the lotus has the quality of redness and not other opposing qualities such as blueness or yellowness, right? This is what we call ayoga vyavacheda, right? If we say the lotus alone is red, this would mean that only the lotus has the quality of red and no other objects in question possess that quality. This is anya yoga vyavacheda. Okay, so these are just, you don't need to remember the technical terms, Sanskrit technical terms, but these are two different ways of understanding exclusivity. Normally, word order in Sanskrit would determine which form of exclusion is meant. But in a compound, right, remember we're considering Omkara, A, U, and M to be a compound, right? There might be some confusion. Here, the letter U in the pranava or Omkara is said to represent ayoga vyavacheda, which is the first type of exclusion, meaning that the soul is subservient to none other than the Lord, though other things, such as insentient matter and divine attributes, are also the Lord's sheshas or servants, right? So the soul is subservient to the Supreme Lord and none other. So this is the first understanding, the first meaning of the letter U, is that the soul, right? The soul is represented by the letter M, ma, which is the 25th consonant in the Sanskrit alphabet, right? Ma. And we explained before that in the Sankhya system of creation, there are different elements, and those other 24 letters of the 24 consonants of the Sanskrit alphabet represent the different elements. And the last one is the soul, which is not an element. It's not a material element, but it's beyond the material elements. Which we, of course, know from the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where the different elements are described. So Krishna only gives 8 there, but there are actually other things involved in creation. And then afterwards, he says, the next verse, he says, it says aparaya metastvanyam prakritim vidime param jiva bhuta mahabaho yayidam darite jagat. He says that above those 8 there is the jiva, there is the sentient being, the soul, and that is separate from material nature. So we know the soul is not material. So the soul here, the quality of the soul, the M in Omkara, is the relationship between the M and the A. What is the relationship between the M and the A? It is the thing in between, the U, right? The U is in between the A and the M in Om. And that shows that the relationship between the M and the A is U, or exclusive. The soul is the servant of God and is exclusively the servant of only Sriman Narayana. Only God. Now, we discussed this before, that we're always serving in different capacities, either in this world or in different, we can serve our country, we can serve our family, we can serve our society, we can serve our friends, right? We can serve our children, we can serve different other personalities like that. But our actual exclusive service is actually to the Supreme Lord. And that is what's mentioned here by the letter U in Omkar. So that's the first understanding. So now, both of these things are understood, right? If we serve him, right, alone, right? If we serve him alone, that means we don't serve others, right? If we have a quality that we only serve him, it means we don't serve others, right? So in both cases of exclusion, we're only serving the Supreme Lord. So let's have a look and let's see what P.B. and Angacharya's version of it, of Sutra 58 is. And we'll have a look and see. There's actually a little bit difference in the, there's a little bit of difference in the way these are numbered. But here it says, okay, again, the meaning of the sutra is the ukaram is used in place of the word eva, only or exactly. And therefore, it has the meaning of avataranam or descent. The meaning of the ukara, or the letter U, has been taken as the same as if the word eva is used. In the Vedas, it is in the place of eva that ukara is usually used. And he also gives this quote here. Thus, it is being used in the place of eva to mean the ukara. The ukara can be taken as avataranam or descent. Descent. Okay, so let's go back to. Okay, so somebody says, and this is because even if we serve others, ultimately all others are subservient to the Lord. Correct. Ultimately we understand that therefore we are only subservient or sheshatva to the Lord. Correct. That's correct. Okay, so continuing on, what does this subservience mean? What exactly does this subservience mean? So what is meant by in this case? What is meant in this case? To this he reveals, this means subservient. Exclusivity means subservience. Just like for instance, I just give you a mundane example is that you might be dating somebody. You might, when you're a single person, you might want to get married, and you might have a relationship with, start to have a relationship with different people, with different women, like that. So then, at a certain point, you might say, "Well, I want to be exclusively, have an exclusive relationship with this one lady who I've chosen. I want to be my wife." So exclusivity, and in that way, you will serve her and she will serve you reciprocally in that relationship, and therefore exclusivity means subservience. So this means subservience or shesha to no other. So exclusivity, the definition of exclusivity meaning here means exclusively subservient to no other, only to Sriman Narayana. So this letter U, signifying exclusivity, means that the soul, previously stated to be a shesha or a servant of the Lord, is not subservient to any other. So it's not that, I think even in the Bible they say you can't serve two masters. So you have one master that you serve. Because if you have two masters, the problem with having two masters is that there might be a conflict in the service, right? If you're an independent contractor, right? Let's say you're an independent contractor and you have many clients, you have many masters who are saying to you, "I would like you to do this, I would like you to do that." There may be a conflict because one client says to you, "I want you to do this on this day," and you have to say, "Well, I'm sorry, I have another obligation to another person," like that. So exclusivity means you exclusively have only one master, like that. So this letter U, signifying exclusivity, means that the soul previously stated as the servant or Shesha of the Lord is not subservient to any other, even though subservience to the Lord is explained by the fourth case ending, right? So previously we discussed there was a fourth case ending, Aya, dative case ending, to the letter A. So that explains subservience already, right? This U is going to give exclusivity to that relationship. So we know that we are to or for Lord Narayana. We have a relationship that we are for him. We are for his service. Right? That's a dative relationship. Right? Everything we do should be for him. But we didn't know up until now, there was no indication in the letter A of exclusivity. In the letter U, exclusivity is given. So by the fourth case ending, is subservience to others possible in this context? So that's the question. We see in the world that houses, fields, sons, and servants, which are subservient to one person, are also subservient to some others. Thus, might not this kind of subservience to others exist in this context also? That's the question, right? Since this doubt might arise, the letter U is necessary to explain that no such subservience to others here. There is no such subservience to others here. On the other hand, Pila Lokacharya, the author here, there states there are some who claim that subservience to the goddess, meaning Sri Devi Mahalakshmi, is the meaning of the letter U, right? So we're going to discuss now, once we say subservience is only to the Supreme Lord, then what about when people say, well, are you not, in a relationship, you have a teacher, aren't you subservient to your teacher, your guru? Aren't you also subservient to other Vaishnavas? Aren't you also subservient to Mahalakshmi, to the goddess? When you go to the temple, don't you also go to her shrine and worship her? Like that? So that will be the question, because the statement's been made that you're only, the letter U it means exclusivity, that you're only exclusively servant of him, the Supreme Lord. What about all these other persons that you seem to be also subservient to? So the question is, what about all these other personalities that you seem to be subservient to? If you're exclusively subservient only to the Supreme Lord, then what about all these others that you appear to be subservient to? Well, let's see what P.B. Nangacharya says for this. So again, the meaning of the 59th Sutra, with this ukar as avataranam. Avataranam means descent, right? The letter U is descent. Anya sheshatva nivritti, not being enslaved to another, is being shown. So there are two types of cases that arise about this avataranam. If a statement is made, the conch has a white color, then this is a certain case. If a statement is made that the white color is nowhere else but in the conch, that's a different type of case, right? So these are different types of exclusivity, right? If we say the conch has a white color, it means the conch doesn't have other colors, right? It's only white. If, however, we say the only thing which is white, which can be, there is no color, the white color is nowhere else but the conch. In other words, the conch is the only white thing. That's another type of exclusivity. As the second statement is false, the second statement cannot be used there. So if one says Arjuna is the only archer, the meaning there is that he has no equal in wielding the bow, and therefore it's a case of the first type. So we can't say Arjuna is the only archer. But if we say in the sense that there's nobody else who is an archer. But when we use the word only for Eva in Sanskrit, so this is just an understanding of shades of meaning of the word Eva in Sanskrit. Okay, it doesn't mean that there are no other servants to the Lord. It means that the nature of the soul is service to the Lord. So in this way, the meaning of the letter U, right, is like the first case scenario. So that is that U shows the Sheshatvam shown to the Lord, the servitorship shown to the Lord, is only towards him and cannot be shown anywhere else. Just as Prativyam Eva Gandaha shows the quality of fragrance. Prativyam means earth. Eva only is fragrant. So earth is only fragrant. So shows that the quality of fragrance is present nowhere else but Prithvi. So those of you are familiar with the Sankhya system of creation, right? That each of the different elements, the basic elements, have different qualities, and Prithivya has fragrance, right? So, but in the Prithivya, so to here, it is taken jivaha ayeva, and that the jiva is enslaved only to him and no one else. But the hidden case, when it is shown that the soul is enslaved to the Lord, why even bring up the question whether he is enslaved to another and prove that he is not? So by the hidden case. So because of this, why should we even bring up the question whether the jiva is enslaved or is servant to anybody else? In this world, we see that something that is owned by one person is also owned by others. This is seen in the case of a home, a place, a servant, a son. Therefore, it's possible that a doubt might come up whether that situation is the same situation between the jivas and the Lord. The answer to that will be taken up and shown that is not so here. Okay, so let's go back. So we're going to discuss that. So in Sutra number 60, it says that there are those who say that this means, quote, subservient to the goddess. Okay, so there are those who say that being subservient to the Lord means also necessarily being the servant of the Lord's consort, Sri Devi or Mahalakshmi. The letter A stands for Vishnu, whose nature is intelligence. The letter U is known to stand for Shri, whose nature is intelligence. But the letter M is a servant to both. This is the meaning of the pranava. So this is an unknown source, but there's a verse like this, and it's quoted. That they don't know the source exactly, so they haven't written it down. But there is an explanation of Omkara that says that the letter U represents Sri Devi, represents Mahalakshmi. Okay. So then the next quotation here, which is also from an unknown source, says, Vishnu or Hari is the Lord of all the world. The Lord of all the world is stated by the letter A. The letter U always means Lakshmi, who is carried by Vishnu on his chest. But Shruti, or the Vedas, affirms that the letter M, or Brahman, stands for the soul, which is always subservient to Shri and Narayana. Okay. So these are two quotations that are given here. Unfortunately, we're probably from Pancharatra somewhere, like that. And as stated by such passages in the Lord's Shastras meaning Pancharatra, and the letter A refers to the Lord, the letter U refers to Lakshmi, and the letter M refers to the soul, which is a shesha, or a servant of both of them. Thus, by taking the letter U not to mean exclusivity, but to refer to Lakshmi, they interpret, these other persons, interpret this letter U to mean subservient to the goddess. Nevertheless, he reveals that the first interpretation is primary. Okay, so now we have understood, we've started to talk about the letter U, and we've been given two understandings about it. The first understanding, which here he says is the primary understanding, is that the letter U stands for the word eva in Sanskrit, which means alone or means exclusively. And it refers to the relationship between the letter M, which represents the Jivatman, the Chaitana, the conscious individual, and the soul, or the Paramatma, the Supreme Being. The relationship, remember, that's what Vedanta is all about. It's about the relationship between the three reals. The three reals are Paramatma, the Supreme Lord, the living beings, the Chaitanas, the conscious living beings, individual living beings, and the universe. So the exclusive relationship between the living beings, the Chaitanas, and the Supreme Lord is one of subservience, exclusive subservience. And the exclusivity is shown by the letter U. So remember, we've learned two meanings for the letter U here. First meaning is exclusivity in service to the Supreme Lord, right? And the secondary meaning is also that the letter U can also mean Mahalakshmi. So it could also mean that the letter M representing the Jivas is also subservient to Mahalakshmi as well as to the Lord. Like that. So let's see what Acharya has to say about that. Again, the meaning of the sutra number 60 is some acharyas determined. So there are some acharyas. It's not just he's saying some acharyas, meaning he's saying that these people are actually gurus and they're actually teachers. They have the opinion, determined that the meaning of the ukara is Sri Lakshmi, and therefore souls are enslaved to her, right? But not exclusively, right? If we take out the idea of exclusively, where they are the servants of the Lord and Mahalakshmi. Previously, it was said that the meaning of ukara was avataranam, or descent. Some acharyas say that it means Sri Mahalakshmi. They determined that the Sri Sambandham means the closeness to Sri, closeness to Mahalakshmi, or the closest, the Sambandham, just like you have the Sambandham between the letter U and M, right? The letter M is not close to the letter A, because the letter U is in between it in Omkara. So the letter M, or which represents the Jivas, is closer to Mahalakshmi if you think of the letter U as Mahalakshmi, and you think of the letter A as being Lord Narayana, right? Then she is in between the Lord and the Jivas, which is actually her philosophical position also, which we've discussed before. Lakshmi is the Purushakara, or the mediator, the intermediary between the Supreme Lord and the souls. So in Omkara also, the letter U, if we take it to mean Lakshmi, is in between the letter M and the letter A, which represents the souls and the Lord. Okay, so Sri Sambandham is there, closeness of the letter M to the letter U, right? They determined that Sri Sambandham to him does not have to be found inside the akara, and that there are shastric verses which show explicitly that the akara shows him and the ukara shows her, right? The letter A shows him, the Supreme Lord, and the letter U shows her, and Sheshatram, or the servitorship by the souls to her. Right. Now, because she comes in the middle, she has a relationship with him, and she has a relationship with us, the souls. Her relationship to the Supreme Lord is also one of subservience, but also she is the consort of the Lord. So she has that relationship. She has the relationship of a mother to us. She has another relationship to us, but we are also subservient to her. It's just like in a family, there's a mother, there's a father, there's children. So the mother and the children have a subservient relationship to the father, The father has a leadership relationship to the rest of the family, right? He has a different relationship with his wife than he has with his children. And the children have a different relationship with the wife, with the husband's wife. Their relationship with the husband's wife is that she is their mother. So they have a motherly relationship. A mother-child relationship is between Mahalakshmi and the Jivas. And a husband-wife relationship or consort relationship is there between the Supreme Lord and his consort Sri Devi. Okay. So if we continue back to Sutra number 61, right? Sutra number 61 says, right, after we said that the first understanding of exclusivity in the letter U was the primary one, then we've talked about the secondary understanding, which it means Mahalakshmi. Now we're talking about subservience. In Sutra number 61, it says, excluding subservience to others is more important than this. So to explain why that the meaning of the ukara, because somebody might say, okay, there are so far we've got two meanings to the word ukara. One is exclusivity and the other is Mahalakshmi, Sri Devi. Right? Which one is more important? Which meaning is more important? Both meanings are true. Both meanings are correct. Both meanings are understandable. Right? But which one is more important? Here it said that the first one is more important, the exclusivity. And the reason is being given here in this sutra. The reason why we consider that to be the primary meaning of the letter U is because subservience to others, excluding the subservience to others, is more important than your subservience to Mahalakshmi, or the relationship of Mahalakshmi, or the understanding that Yukara is Mahalakshmi. Because the most important thing, what is the most important thing for property? What is the most important thing for Sharanagati? And that is exclusive devotion and exclusive subservience, right, to the Supreme Lord. Exclusive subservience to the Supreme Lord. Understanding that he alone is our controller, is our master, and we are meant to exclusively worship him. Right. So, excluding subservience to others, which obstructs the subservience to the Lord, is stated previously, is considered the primary importance compared with being subservient to the goddess. Right? Why? Because being subservient to others stops us from being subservient to the Lord exclusively, right? There may be a conflict. Like I said, if you're an independent contractor, you have different clients, you have different people you're working for. There may be a conflict. So we don't want any conflict, because what is a conflict? A conflict would be a virodhi, would be something that stops us from serving the Lord. Service to the Lord is what we consider to be liberation. Right? In Vaishnava terms, we consider moksha or liberation to be eternal service to the Lord. Whether it's here or whether it's there in Sri Vaikuntha, eternal service to the Lord, that is our goal. Anything that stops us from that keeps us here in this material world. What stops us from serving the Lord eternally is serving others. Any service that we do to others would stop us from serving the Lord eternally. There might be a conflict. Of course, when there's no conflict, if we're serving the Guru, if we're serving Mahalakshmi, then that service is also in the same vein, it's not in conflict with the service to the Lord. Right? So the idea is that there should not be conflict in service. Why is subservience to another so terrible? He answers this with an example of its despicable nature. So we'll go into that in a second. First of all, let's see how Hivyanangacharya explains this 61st sutra. 61st sutra, again, the meaning of Anya Sheshatva Nivritti. Anya Sheshatva Nivritti means, Anya means others, Sheshatva means servitorship, Nivritti means rejection, or rejection of the servitorship of others, right? Being exclusively servant of the Supreme Lord, is the meaning of that is better than the meaning of Lakshmi Sheshatvam. So the Lakshmi Sheshatvam is fine. There's nothing wrong with Lakshmi Sheshatvam, with serving Lakshmi, or even serving the Guru, or even serving other Vaishnavas. There's nothing wrong with those things, with those ideas. But the more important philosophical doctrine is not serving any other person, but only exclusively serving Sriman Narayana. So rather than taking Lakshmi as the meaning of Ukara, it's better to take, right, the Avataranam, the other meaning, right, as its meaning. That the meaning of Ava or exclusivity. That is the meaning that is to be seeked. That is the meaning that we should meditate upon more than the other one. Okay, we can say that Ukara, the letter U, means Mahalakshmi. That's fine. And we can accept that we are subservient also to her, and also to her as an intermediary between us and the Supreme Lord, and also the other intermediaries like the other Vaishnavas and the Guru. That's fine. No, her representatives. Shri Sambandham, or closeness to Mahalakshmi, can be realized through the Akara itself. Right? So if we look at the Akara, the letter A, right, we understood the letter A to represent Lord Narayana, but also the Lord Narayana with Mahalakshmi. Mahalakshmi is also there. She's inherently also there. So we already have this idea of serving them because of what we understood, that she's there in the letter A, right? So that's already been understood. That's already been understood. Since there is no better place for the Ukaram to show Ananya Sheshatva Nivritti, or exclusive service to the Lord and not to any others, right? It is better to take that meaning. It's better to take that meaning, right? Okay, so going back, Sutra number 62. Sutra number 62. We're going to talk about now, why is subservience to another so terrible? And he's going to explain that with an example of its despicable nature. Okay, so Sutra number 62, making the soul, who is a Shesha, who is a servant of the Lord, into a Shesha of those in samsara, because the Lord is outside of samsara. He is of course never under samsara. He's never in this material world. He's never covered by material nature, right? In fact, in the Gita, he says, Mama Maya Duratya, Maya, my Maya. This is my Maya. This belongs to me. This is controlled by me. This is mine. But everything else is there within the material nature, and therefore everything else is in samsara. All the other sentience, if we're going to serve any other thing, any other sentient being, if we're going to be a servant to any other sentient being, that sentient being is here in the material world, and therefore is in samsara. So making the soul a Shesha, or a servant of the Lord, the servant of the Lord, into a servant of a lower thing, something in samsara, right, is like offering Purodasa, which is a Shesha of the gods. Purodasa is a type of prasadam, to a dog. Okay, this is the statement that he makes here. Making the soul, who's subservient to the Lord, our rightful Sheshi, our rightful master, into a servant or Shesha to those in samsara who are inferior in all respects, is like presenting the Purodasha offering, which is a wonderful offering of prasadam, right? Which is offered to honor somebody, right? Which is so delightful. It is fit to be a Shesha, right? A servant of the most honorable gods, such as Indra, to a despicable dog. He reaffirms the previous idea that excluding this despicable subservience to others is the soul's first priority. Your number one priority is to get this out of your head, that you're a servant to somebody else, and to fix firmly in your mind that you are only a servant exclusively to the Supreme Lord. That's what he says. That is the priority. So let's see how P.D. Namacharya talks about it. Once again, the meaning of Sutra number 62. Enslaving the soul, which belongs only to him, only to the Supreme Lord, to another samsari. The samsari means a person in samsara. Is like giving the oblation from a yajna, which is meant for when you offer an oblation into the yajna, right? When you offer something into some wonderful thing into the fire and the sacrifice, it's meant for the Supreme Lord, right? Or it's meant for somebody. Which is meant for Indra to and other devas to a lowly dog. So he says here, why does one have to compulsorily remove Sheshatva from another to another? Remove the idea of servitorship to another. Is it really such a terrible thing? Yes, it is. The soul belongs to him, Sriman Narayana, who is the Lord, and to subject it, that is the soul, to subject it to slavery, to other samsaris, is indeed a terrible thing. To do so is like giving the oblation from a yajna, which is due to Indra or some other devas, right, to a lowly dog. Since it is very important that this terrible thing, which is ananya sheshatvam, servitorship to other, be removed, it is better to take that meaning from the letter U than the other meaning, than the other one that means Lakshmi. So, somebody's saying, I want to ask that in life, if we have to serve so many others to keep body and soul together, bosses, husbands, wives, family members, right? If service to others is a virodhi, right, it's against our essential nature, which is our essential nature is understanding and acting in our essential nature is obviously conducive for liberation, right? How do we overcome this? Is it like from the previous question that we should simply meditate while carrying out our material duties, that this is a service to God only? Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, everyone follows my path in all respects. So yes, exactly. So now, so of course we see in this material world, we do have to serve others, in general, even if it's, just for mundane job or within our family or in society. There are so many obligations that we have, and we're born, everybody in this world is born with different obligations. So we have those obligations, we have to fulfill them. But remember that all these other people are also, in one sense, they're also like the Lord. They're also like the Lord. If we can see them in a spiritual way as part of the Lord, then we also can serve the Lord by serving them, in as much as it doesn't take us away from the service of the Lord. So, yeah, you're correct. So we have to meditate upon the service to country, the service to family, the service to society as being a part of serving the Lord, because the Lord is everything. The Lord is the whole. So the family, the wife, the children, the society, our boss, our colleagues at work, these things are also within the Lord, right? They're also within the Lord, and therefore we can see that spiritual nature of serving them in that way also. Of course, ultimately, we want to try to serve the Lord directly and not indirectly. This is indirect service. The service of society, the service of wife and family, the service of country and bosses and colleagues. These are all indirect ways of worshiping the Lord and serving the Lord. We would like to directly serve the Lord. That's the best thing. So somehow or other, we will find a way to serve the Lord directly. Sutra number 63. Getting rid of subservience to others is even more important than having subservience to the Lord. That's interesting. Okay. So not only getting rid of subservience to others is getting rid of subservience to others more important than being subservient to the goddess, Mahalakshmi. It's even more important for the soul than being subservient to the Lord himself. Okay, so the service of others is even subservient is even more important than being subservient to the Lord himself. Okay, so this is an extreme understanding here. He cites the authority for this statement. As it is said, men do not worship anyone else, even if they forget. And this is a statement from Nammugam Tiruvandadi, which is in the Nalaya Bandham, 68. Be mindful of this. Men who do not worship anyone else, even if they forget the name of the most holy feet, you must reverence as saints and then depart from them. Men who do not worship anyone else, even if they forget the name of the most holy feet, you must reverence as saints and then depart from them. Thus declares Yama, calling his messengers to hear. Right? So Yamaraj, the idea is in this Nanmugam Tiruvandadi, right? It's being stated, right? So we have Moodle Tiruvandadi, Rinda Tiruvandadi, Nan Nanmugam. Nanmugam, I believe, is by Tirumalasai Alwar, right? By Tirumalasai Alwar. And he's saying here that Yamaraj is saying that men who do not worship anyone else, who are exclusively worshiping the Supreme Lord, even if they forget the name of the most holy feet, even if they're forgetting, right? Even if they're forgetting exactly who they're worshiping, you must declare as saints and then depart from them. So Yamaraj is saying this to the Yamadutas. Why? Because of the story of Ajamil. The story of Ajamil, he worshipped the Supreme Lord by chanting the Lord's name Narayana at the time of death. But he thought that he was thinking of his son. He had named his son Narayana, and he was calling for his son to be there when he was passing away. Right? He wasn't actually worshiping the Supreme Lord directly. He'd forgotten the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. But he still knew the name of the Supreme Lord, and he chanted it, and therefore he was worshiping. He was exclusively worshiping the Supreme Lord. And Yamaraj is saying, therefore, those people you have to stay away from. You don't take those people. Those people are Vaishnavas, and those people are going to go to the Supreme Lord. They're going to go to Vaikuntha. So it's a very good example. So in the hymn beginning, be mindful of this. Tirumalasai Piran, Tirumalasai Alwar, yeah, right, I was right. Tirumalasai recounts the conversation between Yama and his servants. When referring to the characteristics of the Lord's devotees, the Bhagavatas, right? Bhagavat means the Lord, Bhagavata means the devotees. He described them as men who do not worship anyone else, even if they forget the name of the most holy feet. Thus, he says that they are the ones who do not practice subservience towards any other object, even if they forget the holy name of their master or Swami. He concludes by saying that for the soul who is a shesha or servant of the Lord, subservience to oneself and subservience to others are both forms of anya sheshatva, right? So we shouldn't think that getting rid of subservience to others means we can't think of ourselves as being subservient to ourselves, that we're in charge of our own selves. That's also wrong. That's also being subservient to another, is being subservient to oneself as well. Being a shesha to another, but this letter U eliminates both of those. It eliminates both subservient to other people and subservience to your own self, and leaves only subservience to the Supreme Lord. Okay, so let's see these two verses. these two sutras with P.D. Lemaitre. Again, more important than being enslaved to him is not being enslaved to another. The meaning is shown, meaning shown in Sutra 61 is being stressed again here. As shown before, removing the Anya Sheshatva or Anya Sheshatva means being subservient to others, which is a terrible thing, is very important for the jiva. Therefore, even more important than being enslaved to him is not being enslaved to another. It is not just that the meaning of ukara is better, taken in the first sense, than the meaning of Lakshmi, right? The removal of subservience to others, the idea of subservience to others, even more than having Bhagavat Sheshatam, even more than being a servant of the Supreme Lord, is the most necessary thing. It is, in fact, extremely essential. So, by the divine words of Tirumalasai Alwar, that says Sri Vaishnavas are those who, even if they forget his name, will not be enslaved to another. Right? To explain the previous sutra, the 68th pasuram of Nanmugam Tiruvandadi is given as an example, as shown here as an example. In Vishnu Purana, there's a sloka, and he quotes the sloka here, and this has been translated by Tirumalasai Alwar. So in Vishnu Purana, it describes the story of how Yamaraja talks to the Yamadutas after they return from unsuccessfully trying to get Ajamila, right, who was dying and who is a sinful man, to come with them back to the court of Yamaraja. So the interesting phrase here, right, is Tiruvadi Tan Naman, right, which Tiruvadi stands for him. Tiruvadi, the feet. They forget the feet, right? When we say the feet, right, the servant is at the feet of the Lord. Tiruvadi means the feet, right? The word Tiruvadi here, though, doesn't mean just the feet. It means the Lord himself, right? When we are subservient to the Lord, right? If we're subservient to the Lord, subservience to the Lord means being at his feet, right? So that's why Tirumalasai Alwar has said, instead of saying that there are people who forget the Lord, but don't forget that they're not servants to other people, when he says the Lord, he doesn't use the word for the Lord, he says the feet of the Lord. When we forget the feet of the Lord means forgetting the subservience to the Lord, right? It means the Lord, being subservient to the Lord, forgetting that. What is being shown in this phrase is that one can even forget his divine name, or his divine form, or his divinity. We can forget about him, right? Completely, his service. However, one should not be enslaved to another. For example, a wife may not have love for her husband. Okay, this is another example he's giving here. A wife may not have exactly great love for her husband. In time, she may become affectionate with him, especially in a fixed marriage, in a fixed marriage situation where people are contracted to marry another person. So eventually, she becomes affectionate for him. But it is not correct to say that she develops a love for another. So even if a woman doesn't fully love her husband, or love her husband intensely like that, or in the beginning, after some time, she may love him more like that, but at least she is chaste and she doesn't love another person, right? So that is the idea. A lot of times the relationship between the soul and God is explained in terms of marital fidelity, is explained in terms of the husband and wife relationship, where the wife, of course, is the soul, and the Lord is like the husband. Similarly, in the Vishnu Purana, the sage Parasara, who wrote the Vishnu Purana, right, says certain things, and therefore it's very important, even more than having Bhagavat Sheshatvam, even more than having the servitorship of the Supreme Lord, that the Bhagavatas know that they don't serve anyone else. They don't serve anyone else. And when we say anyone else, we mean other samsaris, people who are in samsara. And that doesn't include, as we said, serving Mahalakshmi. It doesn't include serving the Guru or serving the Vaishnavas who are also considered to be associates of the Lord or in the same vein as the Lord. They're working in the same, towards the same service of the Lord, all of them. So, number 65, Sutra number 65 says, this states that the soul belongs neither to himself nor to others. Okay, so this is a very clear statement. The letter U, therefore, which prohibits subservience to others, states, number one, that the soul does not belong to himself, since it does not exclude the soul himself from among others, right? So it doesn't exclude, the idea here doesn't exclude the soul as an owner of himself. The soul is not an owner of himself. The soul is owned and completely controlled and supported and subservient to the Supreme Lord. And number two, the soul does not belong to samsaris other than himself. So there are two meanings understood here, right? The two meanings understood here are that the soul is neither a servant of himself nor of other samsaris. Those are the two things. Thus, he has presented the letter, well, I would say the letter U, but here it says, thus he's presented the letter A. I don't know why it says, they say A here. Thus he's presented the letter U. I think it's a typo. After this, he presents the letter M, the third letter. So now we're coming to the end of this section. Let's just have another quick look and see what Vivekananda says about the 65th Sutra. So again, the sutra is the letter U, the ukaram, right, that shows ananya sheshatva nivritti, or not being subservient to any others, right, says that the soul neither belongs to another other than him, other than the soul, other than the Supreme Lord, right, nor does it belong to itself, So the phrase ananya sheshatvam kalikai, right, or nivritti, right, is further explained here. Not being subservient to another or to others, right? So we're explaining what not being subservient to others means, right? And this is a further explanation of what being, because some people may think, well, I'm not subservient to my wife, I'm not subservient to my society, I'm not subservient to my boss, like that. I'm only subservient to the Supreme Lord, but they will still think within themselves that I have a certain amount of independence because I own my own soul, or I'm subservient to my own desires, my own soul, my own wishes, my own mind, my own body, right? Right? Because we say my soul, my body, my mind. We say all this, my thing. They're not yours. They're not yours. You don't. There's no such thing as my mind, my soul, my body. All these things belong to the Lord. That is why we don't use. We try to not use the word aham, meaning I. We try to not use the word mama or my. Right? We always say nama, not mine, namaha. That's why the word namaha, we're going to see, means not mine, like that, namaha. Or in Tamil, people say adiyan, I am your servant. I'm in service to the Supreme Lord. I'm the Supreme Lord's servant. I'm your servant. Right? Rather than saying I. Instead of saying I would like this, they say adiyan would like this. The servant would like this. The servant. I am the servant. Okay, so it is not that the soul should not be enslaved to another samsari who is like itself. It is not just that the soul should not be enslaved to another samsari like itself. It also means that the soul should not be enslaved to itself as well. The term anya includes the self as well, as the self belongs to the same category as the anyas, the others. The self is also samsari. We're also samsaris, so we can't be subservient to ourselves as well. Ananya sheshatva nivritti, or excluding the service of others, right, includes the removal of enslavement to oneself also. There is no need to show a separate effort for the same. Sheshatva nivritti, or excluding service, the service attitude, right, is included, therefore, though the meaning of Ananya Sheshatva nivritti is in the Ukara. Through the meaning of the Ananya Sheshatva nivritti in the Ukara. Right, thus the meaning of the Ukara, the letter U, have been explained. So we have explained the meaning of the Ukara. Okay, so let's stop the share here for a second. Okay, so now we're going to come to another section. We've explained the letter A. We've explained the letter U. Now we're going to explain the letter M. Now, I think this is a good place to stop. If there are any questions or comments about the letter U, because basically we started out with a summary of the letter A. We explained now the two main meanings of the letter U. The primary meaning of the letter U came first. The secondary meaning was Mahalakshmi. The first one was exclusivity. Exclusivity means not being subservient to anybody else. That can further be explained to being not subservient to others, but also not being subservient to our own self, to our own mind, to our own body, to our own soul, right? Because they are not really ours. We are completely subservient, dependent, and supported, and protected, and uplifted, and everything by the Supreme Lord, right? He is everything for us, and we are totally his property. Okay, so if there's any other questions about that or comments, otherwise I think this is a good place to stop, because next we're going to talk about the nature of the sentient being, of the living entity, as regards the letter M in Omkar. Okay, so is this a good place to stop?
Yes, Swami, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. No other questions.
Yeah, easy. Ukara was easy, right? Was quite easy.
Yeah, I like how they say that better to meditate on it as that we're not subservient to anyone else, and that's it,
right,
rather than even meditating as Mahalakshmi. But thinking of Ukara as Mahalakshmi also is wonderful in the sense of the Purushakara, because of the
right.
Makara being the Jiva and the Akara being Bhagavan.
She's in between.
So
she's in between. Yeah,
exactly.
she's in between, like that. So that's a good meditation. That's a good meditation. But we shouldn't be confused about this Sheshatva, the nature of the soul, as being the servant. The nature of the soul is not. See, because some other traditions might say, Jiver Swarupoid Nitya Krishna Das. We're eternally servants of Krishna. Okay, but it didn't say we're eternally exclusively servants of exclusively Krishna. We are only servants of Krishna. We are not servants of anybody else, right? That wasn't specifically stated. So they want to make very sure here that we understand that we are not servants of in any way, shape, or form. We are not servants of anybody else, including ourselves. That is really putting an emphasis on the nature of the service, and who we are. Just like we're talking about with property, there's no qualification for property. There's no time, place, circumstance qualification. Society. No. There's nothing. There's no qualification for property. The only qualification is who you surrender to. So there's no qualification for surrender. But the only qualification is who you surrender to. So the same thing with service. The only qualification is who you do the service for. Who is it that you're a slave to? Who are you doing service for or to? Right? And sometimes people get confused and they think I have to serve this person or that person or the other person. but they don't. They have to be one-pointed in their service to the Supreme Lord.
The other interesting thing is that in the original discussion of Akara, that she is present also in Akara because she is always with the Lord and on the chest of the Lord. And then she's also present in the Ukara too. How she is, it's like it's a double barrier then in one sense, that she's present in these two places to act as the Purushakara.
Again, the example of a family. You have the children, you have the father, and you have the mother. The mother has two roles. The father has one role, right? He is the leader. He's everything, right? The children have one role, right? Subservient, right? Master and servant. The parents and the father and the children, they have one role each. The mother has two roles. The mother has the role that she's the consort of the father. She's the wife of she's the wife to the father, right? She has a husband. That's a husband-wife relationship. She has two roles. In that, she is there within the Akara, right?
Perfect.
She also has a second role. The second role is that she is the mother to the jivas, to the children in the family. So she's the mother. So she interfaces with us. She interfaces with him, but in a different way, of course, like that. But she has those two roles. The other beings have only one role. So she has these two roles. And because she has these two roles, she can be a mediator. Right? We can't mediate. We can't mediate for each other with God because we're children. We're the children. The children can't go to the father and say, look, forgive my brother. He's not going to listen to one child saying about the other. He's not going to listen to that. He'll listen to his wife. He'll listen to their mother. She'll plead on behalf of the children. Don't punish the children. Okay, they did bad things. They're sinful. They're in the material world. Don't punish them. Right? You should have mercy upon them. You should accept them. Like that. He'll listen to her. Right? She's another adult. She's on his level. Right? And she's his beloved. And he'll listen to her. So she has that ability to interface with him in that way, to get him to show his mercy. He has mercy and he wants to show it. She's a catalyst. She's a catalyst for God to show his mercy. Right? At the same time, she's in a perfect position to interface with us, with the sinful living beings here in this material world, because she's the embodiment of his mercy. She sees us like a mother, and she sees that we have done, sinful activities and everything like that. But like a mother who tells a child not to do something bad, when the child does something bad, the mother always, her heart breaks and she says, no, I forgive you immediately. And the mother tells the child, don't play in the mud, you'll get dirty, like that. Yeah, I don't want you to get dirty. You just took a bath, don't go and play in the mud. The child goes and plays in the mud anyway, like that. The father gets angry. The father immediately gets angry. The mother, she may feign some anger, but she's not really angry. And she's cleaning the body of the child. And she's thinking that this is a way that the child has done something naughty, has done something wrong, like that, has gone against my order. But at the same time, it's allowing me now to do more service and to clean the child. And therefore she loves this. She actually loves cleaning the child's body, even though she didn't want the child to play in the mud. Whereas the father is upset. He needs an excuse, though, to show his mercy to the children in this regard. So the mother says, no, please forgive them. Just, calm down, relax, and just, forgive them. And because she says so, he will. He'll show his mercy, like that. But she is mercy personified. She immediately sees that thing. So she has a different relationship with us than he does. And he has a different relationship with her. And only because she plays these two roles can she be in the middle. She's neither on our side nor on his side, totally. Right? She mediates for us with him, and she mediates for us with him, and she mediates for him with us. She said, you should. She's telling us, no, you should be, be respectful, be humble, be, like this, and he'll accept you like that. And so we take her advice, and we do that. We approach through her like that, and therefore we can get to him. And for him, she says, no, be merciful upon them, because they don't know, they shouldn't have done the sinful things and things, but they actually really are your servants. And so she's in a perfect situation. She is the Purushakara like that, only because she has these different relationships with the two sides. She cannot be one side or the other side totally. If she's one side or the other side, then she loses that ability. She plays two roles, and that's her most important aspect. Like that. Now, whether we say, as we say for the Southerners or the Southern school or the Northern school, whether we place her in the basically what the Wadagalais are doing is they're emphasizing her position as the wife in the relationship, in the family. She's a wife, husband and wife, the pair, the couple. And the Tengalais are emphasizing she's the mother and the children. They're just emphasizing that. They're emphasizing those two roles. But actually, she has those two roles. She has both of those two roles. And so it's really just a slight difference in emphasis, right? If we see a family, right? We see the children. We know the position of the children. We see the husband. We know the father. We know his position, like that. But when we see the wife, sometimes she's acting, she's acting as a wife and consort of the husband, and sometimes she's acting as a mother, like that. She has those two roles, like that. Very important role.
That's a perfect example, just like Yashoda Pirati. A perfect
Yasoda,
example.
Yeah. Like Yasoda. Mother Yasoda.
Thank you. Yes, very good.
All right, namaskaram.
Namaskaram, Swami. Bye.